On November 21st, 1994, Sega released an expansion for the Genesis called the 32X. After only 1 year on the market, the decision to end support for the system was made public. As 1995 came to a close, every game that would be released for the 32X had been published except one. Would rushing to release one last game on a dead system hurt the end product? Let's find out. This is Retro Impressions and Reviews, a show dedicated to answering if video games from the past are still worth your time today. Before we start the run through, I'm gonna get this out of the way. That crazy, disco looking party light, it's no party light. At least part of any party that you would want to be at. That, my friend, is the plasma grid. With that out of the way, let's get right into the game. Welcome to New York. A diabolical plan to destroy the city has been put in motion. Hydra has created a plasma grid encapsulating the entire city and hired the new enforcers to ensure the plan succeeds. People are dying and buildings are crumbling to the ground. In case you're wondering about motive, it's money. $1 billion to be exact. Pay the ransom and the city goes free. But who would ever consider paying money when they have you? Spider-Man. The only one that can save the city. Why? Well, who knows? But one thing's for sure, there are no other heroes around. You are the only hope at this point. Your goal in the beginning levels is to reach the end, defeat the level boss, and destroy the generators that are powering the plasma grid. You start off moving among the skyscrapers of New York. As you can see in the background, the buildings are damaged and dangerous to be around. This means you need to be aware of the falling debris. Sadly, there's no spider sense in this game, and you will be hit often. About mid-level, you will have the opportunity to free Daredevil. If you choose to free him, you will be able to collect tokens that can be used via the pause menu to call him to your aid. He's really handy, so I recommend using him only during boss battles. Anyways, deal with any Hydra agents you see along the way, and you will reach the end boss. Defeat Dragon Man, destroy the generator, and you will learn of a second generator at the power plant. Once there, you must navigate your way up and over large quantities of electrical transmission towers. You will see a few new enemies here, probes, rocket launchers, and dreadnoughts. I think it's a really cool level, and it was a ton of fun to navigate. Once you reach the end, dispatch Eel and destroy the second generator. Next, it's on the George Washington Bridge. It takes about 1 minute and you're across to the oil refinery. This is without a doubt the worst level in the game. It's ugly, and it really showcases how frustrating the controls in this game can be. There are many times in this level that you can become stuck to something such as a flare stack, and won't be able to get away before taking a significant amount of damage. It can be very hard to get Spider-Man to do what you want no matter the level, but this one by far is the one that required the most precision control. It's not hard, learn the enemy positions, navigate around them every opportunity that you can, and dispatch them when you need to. With a little luck, you will finally have a playthrough that doesn't involve you being in a compromising position and reach the end goal. At the end of the level, you will encounter the Vanisher along with Thermite. Vanisher is just there as a distraction to keep players from pushing on. Ignore both of them and keep moving until you reach the next screen. Destroy the generator and then squash Thermite. With that, New York City is saved and Hydra starts pulling its forces out of the city. Now it's time to take the fight to the enemy. You start on board a Hydra ship. This level feels very unfinished. Just keep moving forward. It'll feel like no progress is being made and you're in an endless loop. Maybe you are. One cool thing is you can see the ship is descending as the level winds down. Once the ship is landed, you will encounter Blitz, defeat her, and head for the entrance to Hydra's fortress. This is one of the best levels in the game, and it's the one that also feels the most complete. You start off in what I believe is an engine room and navigate your way up using the cargo elevators. Once you reach the top, you will face the only mid-boss in this game, Tangle. Like all other bosses before, it's an easy fight. It's all straightforward from here. Head right, take your time, enjoy the level, and you will reach the final boss, the Super Adaptoid, quickly. I beat this game twice using a different method on the final boss each time, so it's not difficult. Just hit, run, repeat, and he'll go down. The final bit is a pain in the rear 60-second escape. Make it to the end, and that's the game. It's not common to meet people who have played this game, but almost universally when you do, they have a few things in common. 1. They don't like it. 2. They think it's hard. 3. They think the controls and hit detection are broken. And finally, 4. They think the game looks like trash. Let's address these issues here. When I first started this game, I was really impressed by the visuals, and wasn't quite sure what everyone was complaining about. The character models look great, Spider-Man's animation is fluid, and not robot-like as it is in many other games from this era, but not all is good, so let's dig a little deeper. Nearly every level looks great starting out, but all fall to the same issue, the heavy, repeated use of in-game assets. On the first level, you will pass by the same few buildings multiple times until you reach the end. This sets the tone for every level that follows. There is not one level that avoids this, or keeps an original level design from start to finish. It's as if each and every level was started to some degree, then rushed to completion using the assets they had on hand from early development. Why it was left like this can only be attributed to the circumstances surrounding this title. This game is rather confusing to me in regard to what it actually is. You're Spider-Man, but your moveset is so horrible that you really can't handle anything greater than a one-on-one fight. There's no block, dodge, or counter system. This is not a brawler, it's not a puzzle game, and in some strange way, it might be closer to how I envision a Spider-Man game being than not. In the end, I'm not sure I beat the game how it was intended or even played the game how BlueSky intended it to be played. This, however, did allow me to make it to the end with much less trouble than others have reported. Do I think the game is difficult? No, not at all, as long as you have the patience for it. Let's move on to how the game controls. Coming into this game, I had been hearing for years how unbeatable the game was due to broken controls. Let me reassure you, the controls are not great, but they are 100% serviceable. Still, there are issues, and I have a theory. You see, all trifecta Spider-Man games are part of one giant storyline. At the start of this game, Spider-Man is still injured after the ordeals of games preceding this, and thus can hardly fend for himself. The controls are not trash, they are accurately emulating the hardships Spider-Man is facing as a beaten and broken hero. That is why his spider sense is broken, why there are nearly no moves beyond a 1-2 punch and a kick, and why you can hardly take on more than one bad guy at a time. It's the only thing that makes sense and explains why the game is the way it is. One very valid control issue involves sticking to surfaces you don't want. On the oil refinery level, I had repeat issues jumping over the flare stacks. It was like I was a magnet that would snap right to them instead of going over, especially if hit with a projectile well in mid-jump. This would have been a small annoyance if not for the fact that they cause serious damage, almost guaranteeing you won't be able to finish the level if it happens more than once. With all that said, let's move on to the final overview. I'm not saying the graphics are amazing, but I really like the art direction. I love how everything looks in this game. Most of the backgrounds are cool to look at, and the character sprites are all quite nice. Although it feels a bit borrowed from the Spider-Man game Maximum Carnage, it's still a big plus to have the man without fear there to give a hand. This is actually only his second appearance in a game, the first being Separation Anxiety, released just 4 months prior. I personally like the fact that something new was tried here. Although they were unsuccessful in elevating these villains to a new status, it's a nice change from the standard expectation of using only the most well-known villains in mainstream games. The music for this game rocks. There isn't a lot of tracks, but what's there is actually good. The more I listen to it, the more I'm impressed. Sam Powell and Brian Schmidt did a great job in producing a game full of quality tracks. On my second playthrough, I clocked in at just under 25 minutes. I've spent more time with one quarter and a Miss Pac-Man machine than this game took to beat. Of what there is little to be had. There are very few sound effects, levels are insanely short, and typically offer nothing new beyond what you see when you start the stage. Also, there are more bosses than there are different stage enemies throughout the entire game. Coming into this game, I was really expecting something more along the lines of Turtles in Time. In fact, the print ad boasts of 50 moves from the ground alone. The game falls short, however, ending up with something nearly identical to the original Spider-Man on the Genesis in terms of gameplay. A game 5 years older than this one is. Although I really enjoy the cast of B-list villains, I felt very let down that a more formidable end boss wasn't used. If the gameplay mechanics were worth a darn, this could have been an amazing boss fight, but still, not one worthy of closing out the game. It left me wondering why they chose a member of the New Enforcers and not someone higher up Hydra's chain of command for the final boss. While some games might not have immediate replay value, they might be good enough to warrant another playthrough after some time has passed. This is not one of those games. In the end, there are few people I can recommend this game to. It's not a complete clunker, but it has some serious shortfalls. Honestly, I enjoyed my time with it, but all the shortcomings leave an undesirable taste when all is said and done. It's a real shame too, because this game isn't too far removed from being something good, and it's one that will instantly come to mind when I imagine games that had all the potential for greatness but fell short. My final score, a mediocre 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. Feel free to leave a positive or negative comment below letting me know your thoughts. My next video is aimed at answering the question, what is the best Spider-Man game on the trifecta? So click the subscribe button if you enjoyed the review, and we'll see you again. Until next time, this has been Retro Impressions and Reviews.